Hello and welcome to another Bodgit and Leggit video. We have a Ford Mondeo here and we had a 2453, which is a DPF pressure issue. I'll put a picture on the screen of the actual fault code. Now, as you can actually see, we have 5.1 kilopascals, which is like 50 millibar, 50, 60 millibar and around there. Now, the funny thing is, obviously that's too high, but the car is only the ignition is on. So we shouldn't be getting any reading. I start it and the pressure does change. So if we rev it, the pressure changes. So something is happening. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take off the pipes and I'm going to see what the pressure does when we don't have any pipes on. Right, I have taken the pipes off and we still have a reading. Right, we shouldn't have a reading. So at the minute, I cannot trust this to give me an accurate reading of what the actual DPF pressure sensor, or what the DPF pressure is. But we do have a tool that we can actually see. We can take a live reading rather than relying on scan data. Right, we have the Hubby Tools Universal Pressure Tester. Now all I've done is I've got it connected up to one of the pipes on the DPF. So we just go to particulate, and now as you can see, sorry, my throat is really bad. But as you can see, we are reading 0, which is what I would expect to read when the car isn't doing anything. So what I'm going to now do is set this up close to the dash, and we're going to start it, and we're going to see what it says. You can see that. Let me start the vehicle now. And there we go. Basically 0. Let me rev it. Boom! Right, hopefully you saw that okay. And again, with the right tool, very, very quickly, we can now see that the DPF isn't blocked. So the scan tool is saying it is, and the ECU are saying it's blocked. And the car thinks it's blocked, but actually the DPF isn't blocked. We did find a problem with this car. I have done another video on finding a problem with the pipe. But this is always the problem. Just because you find one problem doesn't mean you actually solve the car. So we've got a couple of issues here. And this is where it gets awkward for the customer, because you say you found a problem and, you know, we're going to replace them parts and it still doesn't fix it, and then they might think, well, you haven't diagnosed it properly, or you don't know what you're doing. It's a nightmare. But very, very simply, very, very quickly, I can now say that the DPF is not blocked. So what I've got to do now is I've got to find out what is going on. And like I always say, the right tool for the right job makes your life so much simpler. We can now move on. We're not second guessing. I'm not relying off the live data in this particular case. I've gone direct to the source with this machine, and we now know the DPF isn't blocked. Sorted. Right, I've just started it and we can see the pressure is still way too high, but we now know the true reading. So what I'm going to do is, all the pipes are connected. Let's just rev this. As we can see, just way too high. It's even red on the scan tool, but that should basically, on this particular range with KPA, that should really be 0, maybe like 0.1, 0.2, 0.1, 0.2 KPA, not 5.3. That's over 50, 60 millibars. So what we're going to do now is test the sensor. Right, there's the sensor hiding down there. We're going to have a power ground and a signal wire. Now that's a lineal sensor, so it's easy to actually work out what the voltage would be compared to the blockage, because like I said, it's a linear sensor. Oh, my battery went. Nah, that's some more light on the issue. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're just going to see if we've got power, a ground and a signal, and then we're going to go from there. So we have an issue with either the wiring or the sensor, or possibly the ECU. So let's see what's going on. We now know that the DPF isn't blocked. We also know that we've got two new pipes on because there was a split in it, which you'll see from the other video. And it's interesting, you really want to see that other video because it can catch you out when you're testing the pipes. Be very, very careful. That video will show you. And we know the DPF isn't blocked, and I know the pipes aren't blocked, and yeah. So all that leaves left is the sensor, the wiring, or the ECU. So let's see. All I'm going to do is, you're not going to be able to see this, I'm just going to put a back probe pin in each one, and we're going to see what we get. We'll be able to work it out very easy with the multimeter, what's going on. Right, so let's just back probe the sensor. I'll just show you the multimeter, you're not going to see it. 0.7. That's interesting. That is actually very interesting. That's our signal wire. Our middle wire, that's our ground wire, and that's a good ground. So our last wire has to be our power. Should be a 5-volt power. And there we go. Right, the plot thickens because we have, let me just get it back on the top one. Right, so our top wire is the signal wire, and as you can see, we're still at about 50 millivolts, which is about 5, kPa. So with this being a linear sensor, we should be expecting to see around 2.5 volts on our signal wire if our DPF is at 50 millivolts. But it's not, because we've checked it with the Hobby Tools tester, and it's only 3 millibar. Let me just get this on there now. Where are we? And there we go, we're at 0.7, which is about what the Hobby Tools tester is saying. But our scan data is saying it's at 50 millibar, but our car is actually reporting the right amount. If I unplug this sensor, let's see if we should get 4.5 volts. Let me unplug the sensor. Right, I've unplugged the sensor and we're getting 4.5 volts. And our sensor is still reading, well, of course it's gone high because we've unplugged it. So, okay, that's fine. That is fine. That's what it should do. It should basically go into, into max it out, which it has maxed it out at 4.5 volts. But, right, let me think about this. Right, our sensor has been plugged out and we are maxed out our sensor, which is good. So it means the computer can see it. We know that is because it says 4.5 volts, so that's fine. I know it doesn't say it now because I haven't got that plugged in. We know our sensor pipes are good. We know our DPF isn't blocked because we've tested it directly from the DPF with our pressure tester. And that was perfectly fine. Even when I revved it up, it was only reading about 30, maybe 40 millibar, which is absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So, and our computer is fine because, like I said, I unplug it. So I've unplugged it. We get 4.5 volts at the sensor. We got a good power. We got a good ground. When I plug the sensor in, we're reading 0.7, which is basically 0.7 is about atmospheric pressure, which is fine. But our scan tool is saying, no, we have an issue because we're at 50 millibar. So it's as if this sensor is reading from 50 millibar up. Now, it's as if it won't go below that. And even when I had the pipes disconnected where there's no pressure whatsoever, it still won't go below that. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take this out and I'm going to clean it. Maybe some crap has got stuck up in there and is not allowing the diaphragm to move. But that wouldn't make sense either because we're getting the correct voltage. and it's the voltage that changes the live data. Let me just take it off and clean it. That's nice and easy to do first. Right, I meant to say kPa, not millibars at 2.5 volts. So 50 kVA is 2.5 volts, but we're not at 50 kVA. We're at 50 millibar, which is 5 kPa, which is still blocked at idle. It's still saying it's blocked, but it's not blocked. So yeah, I just got them readings a little bit wrong, but you get the idea. So let's take this out and clean it and see if it does anything whatsoever. Because we know the wire is actually working, the computer wire, because when we disconnect it, it reads open circuit essentially, which is 100 kPa, which is 4.5 volts. But it doesn't want to go below that, so we could still have a wiring issue. Yeah, this might be an interesting one. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Dytex scope generator, or signal generator should I say, and I'm going to put my own voltage to that sensor to basically make it go to 0, or I'm going to try and make it go to 0. I just want to make sure the car can see it. So in other words, if I set the sensor to what I think the voltage should be is like 0.4, that should practically be 0 or 0.5. And our scan data should move that. Our scan data should move down to 0 and not 50 millibar, which it is at the minute. No, well, actually now it's obviously 100% because it's out. So let me just get... Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 0.5 of a volt through this. This is the Dytex signal generator. And it will allow me to put 5 volts or 0.5 volts into the sensor to see if it actually goes to 0. Then I know if it goes to 0, then I know that the wiring is okay and we have an issue with the sensor. So let me just set all that up and we'll see what happens. Right, so at the minute we're not touching, it's open circuit because it's been disconnected. I'm going to now touch it. Boom, 0. 0.5 of a volt, let it off, touch it again, 0. Perfect. That now means the computer can actually see 0, which is good. So that means the wiring is okay. We're all good. We do have an issue with the sensor. If I let go, it returns. So we have an issue now with that sensor. But I am going to clean it first, just to be on the safe side, just in case there's maybe a bit of crap in it. And we'll put it back and we'll see. But as you can see, it looks to be kind of blocked, but that doesn't mean it is. But if you look at the bigger hose, it does kind of look like there's a lot of crap in there. So we're going to squirt it and we're going to see what happens. Right, the way these work is there's a diaphragm inside here and you've got a sensor, well not a sensor, but a pipe at the front and the rear of the DPF, and this senses the pressure difference between the two. So the diaphragm gets pushed and then it obviously turns into a signal and turns into voltage down here. But what it does is if the diaphragm is getting pushed one way, that's what it then turns it into voltage, and the car says, hold on a second, there's an issue here, we've got a blockage. So that's essentially how it works. It's very simple. Just a little diaphragm that is able to actually deflect. But if it's full of crap, it might not be able to move properly, or it could even be stuck in a position like, for example, what we are. I think we're stuck, and internally there, it might not be able to come down to 0. So we're going to... Right, it's gone down. It's still too high, but it's gone down, so we're getting somewhere. I think that's completely clogged. That should still read 0 again, because as you can see, look, there's nothing connected into it. But we're getting there. Right, I've just been to Ford and I've got the new one. Now it has already been opened, and before I took it, now lucky enough I know the guys there, but I did say, look, if there's an issue with this, it's not me, it's already open. And they said, yeah, look, no worries. So we got the new sensor. We're going to put it on. We're going to look at the reading, and it should be 0. Sorted. Let's find out. Right, I've just put the new sensor on. Here is the old sensor. Now, I've just turned the ignition on. There's nothing connected to it. Have I made the right decision, or have I just cost myself a lot of money? Because if I'm wrong, I pay for the part. Sorry for the glare. Oh, boom! There we go. 0. Absolutely perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the pipes back on, pull it all in, and see what happens. Lovely. This sensor failed in a very unusual way. So yeah, just something to bear in mind. Right, I put all the pipes back, I put the sensor back. So again, we should be reading 0. Sorry about the glare. Boom, 0. Let's start it up and see what we get. Right, I've started the car, but I haven't looked at the dash yet to see if it says engine malfunction, and I haven't looked down at the sensor data yet. So let's just go down, see what it says. We're getting close. Oh, boom! Now it's in pascals. I wonder why it changes. I didn't change that reading. 238 pascals is around 2 millibar. 2.5 millibar. Well, it's actually 2.3. That's absolutely perfect. Let me just rev this up. Goes to about 30. Oh, it actually changes to kPa as it's going up. I personally think that should be a millibar. That's the way I'm used to seeing it, but it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, when I give it a good rev, yeah, 30 millibar on a good rev, absolutely perfect. It's fixed. So this is always a good thing. Oh, actually, hold on. No, I don't know if it is yet. Hold on. Oh, boom. It doesn't say engine malfunction. And this is always the problem. You find one fault, you fix that, and there's another fault. Now, sometimes the customer understands, sometimes they don't. This customer, in this case, he's very good that way. He understands, you know, what can happen in a car. Plus, I'm filming everything, so that obviously also helps. And, yeah, it's great. So, you know, check out the other video on the pipe, because you can easily get caught out on this. This sensor failed in an unusual way. But we, as you can see from the video, we tested everything to make sure we are 100% right, and we was. So the customer will be happy it's finished now, and I'm happy because it's actually done. It's sorted, no problems. Boom. So there we go. So look, hope it helps. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget, links up there, links down below, but don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one. Sorted.